What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction. Back with the final track, I believe, on the proper album Bilingual by the Pet Shop Boys. Thank you as always to Seb. Though there are a number of additional tunes in this expanded folder, so this is not the last part of this chapter of the Pet Shop Boys journey. But yes, the last tune is Saturday Night Forever. So my first thought is that it bears a resemblance to the phrase Saturday Night Fever, which I have seen before, not all that many times, and it's sort of an unpleasant movie in parts, but my best recollection of the essence of the title is that it's about wanting to go to these dance parties and to have style and fashion and to be young and part of the scene, and of course that can have darker underbellies or difficulties, as I think the movie demonstrates. But yeah, the idea of going to dance clubs and being part of a culture, part of a scene, and embracing the tracks, the artists, and the fashions associated with it. So Saturday Night Forever, and knowing that the Pet Shop Boys often have a way of turning a title that you might read just on the surface and more or less straight away into a narrative that is more complicated in practice, on the surface of it, I'm inclined with an N, to read it as indicative of a similar type of mentality, the idea of always embracing the weekend and the little bit of reprieve we get from the work-a-day work week and the mad world, to quote a Tears for Fears song. Like, it feels like the idea that forever, even as you get older, even as you're no longer what you were, even as a scene might change, move on, different artists come to the fore, and so on, the Saturday night, the essence of that night out at a club will remain, and maybe even, passing from generations to the next, so it's not like any one person or any one particular cohort will be living that forever. Now, again, I wouldn't be surprised if, number one, it's just different from that, or number two, even if there is something of that there, that there's a twist to it, or an element that is not clearly indicated by the denotation of the title. So I'll do my best to follow along. This is Pet Shop Boys' Saturday Night Forever, and it's the last tune on their 1996 album Bilingual, though once again we've got a lot of B-sides and at least one non-album single waiting for us in the folder after this.
I swear I don't care for what difference
like, and again, people know my feelings about fade-out endings have evolved, but they are still complicated. But I feel like for the last track on an album, and for a loop of a dance track to kind of extend to the horizon gradually fading, I think that does work about as well as any fade-out ending works. And yeah, so like in one sense, this does sound very 90s to me. It kind of has like this vocal house of the 90s feel. But several of the sonic stylings really do sound 70s to me. Those kind of backing vocals, the little brass flares, and just kind of the vibe. I won't say it sounds like disco house, but yeah, like I said, I was getting some major 70s vibes. And like, it wasn't until about halfway through the track that I was thinking about what I said in the intro, that like, oh, well, Saturday Night Fever, it's a pretty famously 70s based movie. So then I suddenly thought that like, oh, maybe there is, even if it's kind of indirect, more of a reference here happening than I thought in the first minute or two, where again, I'm hearing it as kind of like 90s vocal house, and there's some nice aspects of production where, sort of the keyboard lines, and there was a, not like fully acidic, but there was like a little synth rhythmic element that was like one of the more subtle pieces or parts to the tune that I heard that my brain very much liked. But yeah, like about a minute or two into the track, it was like, oh, some of the backing vocals, those kind of sing-songy backing vocals, and those brass parts, which again, maybe that's like keyboard brass, but they did feel a bit 70s to me. So then I'm suddenly wondering, is this really about like, because he's saying, Saturday Night Forever, but he's saying, I know this won't last forever, is the essence, seemingly, of what he's saying. And so maybe the idea is about like, the scene, the club, the dance floor, all the personal stories around that, they might last forever, but he knows that he and others like him, others of his generation, there's an expiration date, there is a cutoff where it won't last forever for him. So I do wonder if that's kind of the distinction or dichotomy being drawn. Maybe I'm missing it entirely. I will say it didn't feel like there were as many lyrics on the page in the verses as there are in some of their other tunes, and it really felt like we were repeating the main lines of the chorus again and again, which number one lends itself very much to a dance oriented tune, and number two, sort of fading out into the distance again as the final track on the record. That certainly works. But yes, I do feel like on some level this has to be about partying, dancing, being part of a music scene and culture on the weekends, which again, Saturday is like the ultimate weekend night, right? Because Friday nights, yeah, you can let loose, but most people work during the day on Friday, so it's still kind of a more like mixed day. Sunday, sure, you have most of the day off. Again, if you work like a Monday to Friday job, which a lot of people don't. I mean, I work on the weekends because I work at a restaurant, so that's when we're busiest, so that's actually when I am working. Nevertheless, the point is, for a lot of people, Sundays, you have the day off, but you can't go crazy because you got to be at work next Monday morning, whereas Saturday nights, you're kind of free on either side. So I feel like that's historically or like stereotypically the night when you'd be most likely to go partying. And fair to say, as a raver from the 90s, a lot of the parties that I would go to were actually on Saturdays. Now, fair to say, some weekends I would go to parties on Friday and Sunday night, and sometimes like, there'd be a Saturday night party and like a Sunday daytime like after party, so it might be like a whole weekend thing. But yeah, Saturdays I think are held up as kind of the quintessential weekend night. So yeah, let me know if I'm missing the boat entirely on this one. But as I said, I enjoyed the kind of mellow, like, a bit throwback sonics, like dance sonics, which again, very much a dance tune, kind of a house vibe, 90s vibes, but also 70s vibes, and then some nice little electronic touches along the way. And Neil's lovely voice, of course, which is interesting. Like, the first half of this album, there were multiple tracks where he was singing in a kind of, spoken words, syllabic, like a mode that is less reflective of their earlier material, but it feels like the back half of this album, it's been more traditional Neil, higher pitch and, sort of smooth and melodic type singing. So that is an aspect that stood out to me, or at least that's the way the album hit me. In any case, we do have a lot of bonus tracks on this album, and as I said, at least one non-album single. single, excuse me. The next time we come back, the truck driver and his mate. So we'll look forward to that one. Do let me know what you think of this one, and hopefully the next time I come back, my brain and mouth will work in better coordination. Peace.